I'm happy to move on to the next slide and kind of kick off the rest of the meeting. So everyone should have received a packet in the mail with this cover page on it, in addition to a flyer. So these were the meeting materials for the meeting tonight. We want to make sure that residents receive physical copies of the meeting material, in addition to what you're going to see at any virtual meeting we do. And we're also going to be following these meetings up with in-person meetings. If for some reason you did not get this packet hung on your door, there are copies. You can go request a copy from your management office. They have copies in all of the languages: English, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Russian. They could print out a copy for you. Or additionally, the new PACT partner, who we're here to introduce tonight, they have a website set up where you can actually download a copy of the presentation and look at it at any point in time. So their website is www.harlempact, that's Harlem, PACT.com. You can find the link to the presentation there, or we can make sure you get copies if you're unable to get these materials otherwise. The website also has information about the PACT team, kind of reiterating the things that you're going to be hearing for the rest of the night. So this is an exciting meeting. I know you've seen me present a number of these before, but there's a big change happening here. You've heard me talk about the process, what's to come with PACT since August of 2021. I've been doing these regular meetings. I've been always anticipating, or having you anticipate, that your resident leaders were going to review proposals and ultimately select a PACT partner that would have the opportunity to come on board after they were chosen by your resident leaders, and they would be the organizations and the team that would do the renovation work in your buildings and your buildings and grounds, and also become the long-term property managers and providers of enhanced social services and community programming. So over the course of the summer, your resident leaders all went through this process of reviewing and analyzing proposals and selected a team. And this is the first opportunity that we have to introduce this team to you. So tonight's meeting is really about introducing the new PACT partner to all of you. And we'll come back and do this in a series of additional meetings on top of what we do tonight. Next slide, please. So for anybody that is curious about what's going on here, we're going to have a little bit of a presentation for 45 minutes or so, where we're going to lay out who this team is and what they're planning on doing here. But we're also, like we always do, we're going to have a question and answer session at the back end of the meeting. We want to make sure the priority here is to get your questions answered, have an opportunity for you to talk one-on-one with some of these new PACT partners, make sure you're feeling as comfortable as possible with what's to come. So everyone, to start, you're going to be muted at this part of the presentation, but you'll have a chance to be unmuted and answer questions as the process enters into the Q&A session. When we get into that session, if you're on your phone, you have to dial *9 to raise your hand, and then we'll call on you, at which point you'll dial *6 to unmute and speak. We will reiterate those instructions when we get to the Q&A period. But if you're joining on Zoom through the computer, you can actually type a question into the chat box earlier than that. You don't have to wait for the Q&A. We can have those now and we can address them later. Or you can, when we get to the Q&A session, raise your hand virtually, and kind of in the same manner, we can call on you, ask you to unmute yourself, and you can ask a question. These icons that you see on the screen here, those are the buttons that you can use to raise your hand, and we can kind of coach you through how to unmute yourself when we get to that point. So we're looking forward to the Q&A, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew those ground rules and that there would be a chance to have a conversation with the team after the presentation. Next slide. So before I pass it off to the PACT partner to introduce themselves, I just want to reiterate some of the basic details of the PACT program. Some of the things you've heard me say, this is kind of NYCHA's spiel about what the program can deliver, but it's important that we keep reiterating this and making sure everyone feels comfortable with the terms of the program. So to begin with, we really want to understand what is PACT. It stands for Permanent Affordability Commitment Together. This really is, it's a program that's kind of the New York City version of a federal program run through HUD called RAD, or Rental Assistance Demonstration. You may hear those terms used interchangeably at times. At NYCHA, we view this as a program that can bring much needed funding to renovate and improve your properties and your apartments, modernize your homes. It's an investment in in other spaces like the community rooms, the TA rooms, the meeting spaces, the amenities in your buildings, your security, all the while making sure that your rent remains permanently affordable and that the rights and the protections that you have today remain in place for you over the course of this program. I think you all know that NYCHA buildings are really in desperate need of repair. It's no secret. At this point, we know as of this year, we're estimating probably over $40 billion of capital repair needs are needed throughout our whole system to actually bring the buildings up to a state of good repair. We simply don't get that amount of money from Congress year after year. Congress is really who primarily funds the public housing program in New York, and we're not seeing that level of funding despite asking year after year, and we're suffering because of it, and your apartments are really in need of repairs that we just can't finance without that money. Every year that we're not investing in those repairs in the properties, we're pushing off necessary repairs. The buildings are getting in worse and worse shape. The costs actually grow exponentially in this case because we're always playing catch up. If we're not providing you with a service and a repair one year, that leak that was in one part of your apartment in 2017 is now a leak down, all the apartments in a line in 2022. So you can imagine how these costs keep ballooning, and we have no path to get that funding from Congress. We're playing catch up. Ultimately, you're not receiving the services that you deserve. You're not receiving the quality of life and the quality of an apartment that you deserve. So we turn to PACT as a program that allows us to unlock funding that's otherwise not available. It allows us to get money to make comprehensive repairs all around the building, not just in your apartments, but truly comprehensive. Building security, building systems like elevators, heat, hot water, windows, security, indoor and outdoor common spaces, lobbies, stairwells, lighting, security cameras, security staff. It really is a holistic opportunity for repairs and improvements in funding. And additionally, there's going to be a focus on bringing on board on-site social services and programming in addition to the physical repairs in a way that NYCHA used to do, but that kind of programming has really been cut more and more over the decades. What PACT does is change the source of funding for your development. So currently, your development is funded through that federal Section 9 public housing program that I described earlier, that's very underfunded, to a different federal program. This is the project-based Section 8 program. It's also a federal program. It's also run through HUD. It is public money. It is federal money. But unlike traditional public housing, it's not subject to those annual allocations. It comes with a higher annual subsidy. It comes with a 20-year contract that through this program must be renewed over and over again. So it's more money for improvements in your development, and it's stable, and it's reliable, and it comes over and over again. HUD does have oversight over these deals, so the federal government's going to have to approve the terms of the deal here. They have to make sure that the team and NYCHA can deliver you the product that you deserve through this process, or they're not going to approve it. They have to feel confident that the PACT partner that I'm going to introduce here has a plan that can address all of your documented repair needs, all of your priorities, while ensuring all of your rights are in place and that the building and the apartments remain permanently affordable. Next slide. So what are we talking about when I say bringing on a partner? How does PACT work? What is the actual mechanism here that makes this all operate? So PACT depends on a partnership between NYCHA and private and not-for-profit development partners, which we really refer to as the PACT Partner Team. You'll meet them tonight. That's really the focus of tonight's meeting. These teams were selected by your resident leaders. They went through a long process over the course of the last spring and summer where they reviewed a series of proposals alongside NYCHA staff and other city agencies, interviewed prospective teams, went on site visits to see their prior completed work and get a sense of the quality they can deliver for you. They made a selection. That team is ultimately going to assume responsibility for the day-to-day operations and maintenance at your development and deliver you major repairs and renovations. NYCHA does not leave the situation here. NYCHA remains as the owner of the property. It is not a sale of your property. We lease the land and the buildings to the PACT partner, who you'll meet later. They are responsible for the repairs. They are responsible to manage the property, and they will deliver you social services, and community programming, as I described earlier. But NYCHA still stays the same in certain ways. So NYCHA will still be there to assist you in various ways. We will have staff dedicated to your properties that can help you resolve issues you may have with the PACT partner. You'll go to them to do things like file a repair or maintenance request, but you'll come to us for things like certifying your income. We'll be the ones setting your rent to make sure it's affordable in perpetuity. We'll be the ones filling vacant apartments as they come up off of the NYCHA Section 8 waiting list. So NYCHA still has a very prominent role in your development in the future. We're also importantly going to be monitoring conditions and making sure that the partners are performing well up to our standards and up to your standards. We can actually step in to resolve issues that may arise between you and the partner, although we don't expect that to happen. And we can even remove the partner. So we really make sure that in the long run, right, this is a NYCHA property in a partnership with this team that you're going to meet in a little bit. Fundamentally, I want you to understand that you remain NYCHA residents through this process, but under a different model that is meant to bring in different skills, different expertise, and really, really a lot more resources to give you the quality of life you deserve. So I have one more slide, if you can go to the next slide, that I'm going to go through briefly. I want to emphasize that there's often a lot of questions from residents about, well, what changes in terms of my rights or my protections that I always have had under Section 9 in the traditional public housing program? Are they going to be there through PACT? And the answer is yes. We ensure through a series of regulatory documents and agreements with the federal government and with the PACT partners and through your leases that these protections you see on the screen here remain in place for you. So notably, they include that rent for your apartments can never exceed 30% of your household income, the same way that it is calculated today. You will still have a right to organize a tenant association, and that tenant association will still receive things like TPA funding to do things like Family Day or other events that might happen throughout the year. You will always have a right to renew your lease. So you will have automatic lease renewal unless there is some kind of issue with a breach of your lease, but you will be offered an automatic lease renewal year after year, the way exactly as it exists today. I want to emphasize this bullet here. Your application will not be rescreened upon conversion. We get a lot of questions from residents saying, hey, I'm familiar with the Section 8 program, and I think my household is not the right size or is earning too much money, and we're not going to qualify to be brought into the PACT program through Section 8. I want to say loud and clear that every resident that is in good standing, that is living in any of the buildings that's part of the Jackie Robinson and Harlem scattered sites now, you will be carried over into the new program, no matter what. There's no rescreening, there is no reapplication, there is no process that can weed you out based on income or household composition. You will be brought over into the new program as long as you are in the Section 9 program today. You will be a resident under Section 8 in the PACT program, and that's just a basic part of the process. Things like adding relatives to leases, passing an apartment on through the succession rights process, that still remains in PACT. You will still have an opportunity to have a grievance hearing if there is a dispute about your lease or a violation of house rules or something like that. There will be a formal process for you to go through to make sure that all your rights are exhausted and you have every opportunity to have a hearing to address any problems you're having. And finally, this is still a federal program with federal money. So Section 3 rules still apply. There are going to be jobs created through this program, construction jobs maybe in administration, caretaking, other things. Residents will have an opportunity to apply for these jobs. We'll make sure that job training is available, and there'll be a priority for hiring for NYCHA residents through this program. I want to just basically sum it up by saying the PACT program is really created to grandfather your current rights in exactly as you experience them today, but with all the enhancements and benefits and additional resources of this new PACT partner. We want to all work together to make sure this is as smooth a transition as possible. So we appreciate you all being here tonight to start working with us on that process. But with that, I'm really going to end the NYCHA portion of the presentation. I'll be available here to answer questions at the end along with the PACT partners, but I want to give over the rest of the time to introduce the new partner to you. So PACT teams are made up of several organizations serving in different roles. There's developers, there's property managers, there's general contractors that will do the construction work. There's security teams, all these moving parts. I'm going to pass things off to Melissa Bindra, the principal from VIA Development. So that VIA is part of the team serving in the development role in this project. She is going to kick off the introduction of the new partner and kind of lead the rest of the presentation. I want to say congratulations to all of you. This is a huge milestone in any PACT project. There's a lot of work to come before construction starts. We want you to participate and be part of that, but this is an exciting place to be. There's some new changes coming in, and with that, I will pass it off to Melissa to get into some details about what that's going to look like.
Great, thanks, Jim. And thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. Like Jim said, my name is Melissa Bindra, and I'm the principal of VIA Development. I, along with the rest of the team that's here tonight, is here to introduce themselves as the project team that will be working with residents of all of the developments that make up Jackie Robinson and the Harlem scattered sites on the PACT conversion and renovation of your homes. I'm going to start with the development team. VIA Development, Ascendant Neighborhood Development, and McCormick Barron Salazar. We're the group of companies that have come together to oversee the project and invest our resources and our expertise in what is a very big effort. My company is VIA Development. I also have, joining us tonight is Dilcia Loomis from our company. We both look forward to getting to know all of you in the future. So VIA focuses on creating and transforming affordable housing in New York City. We've worked on successful PACT projects in the past. We've also built senior and supportive housing. And in everything that we do, we take a community-based approach, which means that we work closely with residents and stakeholders throughout the process to create what we think are more successful and comprehensive projects that create economic opportunities for local residents. So again, we're looking forward to working with all of you. And I'm going to let my partners introduce themselves, starting with Chris from Ascendant.
Thank you, Melissa, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chris Cirillo. I'm the Executive Director at Ascendant Neighborhood Development Corporation, and I'm joined by my colleagues A.L. Hugh, Derek Gaskill, and Matthias Helfen, who work at Ascendant with me. We are a nonprofit affordable housing provider based in East Harlem. We're celebrating our 35th anniversary of serving the neighborhoods of East and Central Harlem this year. We have developed over 800 affordable apartments in East and Central Harlem. In those 35 years we've been working, and we have over 600 apartments in our pipeline. We are really excited to be starting this project. Many of our buildings and our office are near your buildings, and we're really excited to get to know you, get to know your vision for how you want your buildings to be moving forward. And so we look forward to hearing your feedback this evening and in the months to come. And I think I'll turn it back to Melissa for the next speaker.
And then our third partner is McCormick Barron Salazar, and we have LaShonda Gonzalez here.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is LaShonda Gonzalez. I am the Senior Vice President of Government Relations at McCormick Barron Salazar. McCormick Barron is a nationally recognized developer. To date, we are working in 27 cities, including the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have to date developed over 22,000 affordable units throughout the country. We also have a property management team and other social services professionals. We are really excited to be a part of this team as well, and look forward to hearing your feedback tonight and working closely with you guys so that we can redevelop your homes. And thank you.
Great, thank you. Next slide. So the project team also includes a large group of extremely experienced companies that help us execute on the plan. Starting with L&M, which is one of the largest developers and experienced contractors in New York. L&M Builders is going to be the contractor for each of the buildings for the construction. They've renovated over 10,000 apartments. They've worked on several PACT projects. And we're always very happy to work with them because they're very professional and they invest in creating jobs for local residents. The team at L&M is here today to answer any questions related to construction that you might have when we're done with the presentation. Similarly, we have a big design team that includes architects, consultants, engineers, and it's led by Curtis and Ginsberg Architects. They've designed over 20,000 apartments, excuse me, in New York City. And they've been a key partner for us in all of the NYCHA renovations that the team has worked on. On the property management side, we have CNC apartment managers who will eventually be your property manager. They will oversee the day-to-day operations at each property once the conversion takes place. Because they play such an important role, I'm going to let Herminio Torres introduce himself and the company to you now.
Melissa, thank you so much. My name is Herminio Torres, Senior Vice President of Property Management here at CNC. We are a fully integrated property management company focused on a variety of different disciplines. We have in excess of 20,000 units in the tri-state area as well as New Jersey. The majority of our assets are affordable, focused on either project-based Section 8, low-income housing tax credit, workforce housing, or just lower level affordability. We, in the past 8 years, have focused on transitioning several thousand RAD and Section 8 units. Our focus is on resident experience. We really pride ourselves on really engaging with and enhancing the quality of experience in our resident communities. We think we do a phenomenal job at it. And we do this with our industry professionals and experts that we have on our team. We have several hundred professionals that serve in the operational capacity that will be part of this transition. We're excited to be a part of this team. We believe that we can excel. We are confident in the level of services that we have been able to effectuate, not only in the Harlem community in the Bronx, but primarily in these communities that need these level of services most. I am excited to cultivate these relationships. I look forward to working with you and all of the resident communities because we believe that we can make a significant difference. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Herminio. Please move to the next slide. So now I'd like to walk you through our team's approach for the renovation and the transition. We have a long period of 12 to 18 months where we'll be working on putting together a plan for each property. It will be working very closely with resident leadership, with residents at monthly meetings. But we come to this process with an approach and a plan. And overall, our approach is rooted in service to our clients, which are all of you, the residents. In this instance, because we have so many different developments and buildings, it's important that we approach each building individually and create a plan for construction and operation that's unique to each building. So we can only do this with collaboration and input from residents. So we appreciate your participation in the process. No one knows your developments better than you do. When it comes to property management and construction, we always aim to put service first and create a plan that's going to transform your homes, both physically and in terms of services and amenities. So when it comes to on-site property staff, when it comes to response times, when it comes to social services, we're aiming to have a transformative change in your homes. Additionally, in everything that we do, like I've mentioned a few times, we look to invest in residents and the local community to create jobs and to incorporate local and small businesses into the project as much as possible. Next slide, please. So the renovation of the properties, the physical improvements are it's really the biggest undertaking here. And It's going to take us about 12 to 18 months, like I mentioned, to put together the right plan for construction for each property. What I'm going to walk you through now is our approach and some examples of what we've done in the past. And from our experience, are important components of the renovation. None of the images here are meant to show what we will actually do. These are just examples. For example, the image that you're looking at here, which for everyone on the phone is page 8, is an example of 131 St. Nicholas with a new entrance and seating out on the front portion of the property. So keep in mind that these are just examples as we walk through them. Next slide, please. The first component of the renovation is the interiors, which are your apartments, any indoor areas of the building. So lobbies, laundry rooms, and any other common areas. We're planning a full renovation of each of these spaces, which means in your apartments, new kitchens, new bathrooms, flooring, lighting, and paint. Hallways, lobbies will also have new materials, new mailboxes, new intercoms, and each property obviously is a little bit different. You all have different common areas, different spaces, but they are intended to all be part of the renovation. Next slide, please. On the outside of the properties, we always incorporate improvements as well. And so these are some examples of things we've done in the past. These include new playgrounds, fitness equipment. They could be art installations created by residents or by local artists, gardens, spaces for classes like yoga. These are, of course, dependent on each development and what spaces you have out to work with, but also what residents want to see. And so part of this process is we'll be working closely with you to get your feedback and hear what you would all like to see in your developments. Next slide, please. In addition to improving the existing spaces there, we'd also look to identify any spaces within the buildings that are not being utilized. So these are often storage spaces, maybe property management offices that aren't being used, or just spaces that were being used at some point and have been closed. And we'll look to repurpose those. Popular uses for them at other developments have been converting these spaces to laundry rooms, to offices or meeting spaces for the resident association or resident watch, lounges, gyms, and recreation rooms like arts and crafts, depending on what residents at each the specific development are interested in. Next slide, please. This is an example of what could be done at a development. Again, it's just an example. So this is actually a floor plan of Jackie Robinson houses. And so here we've taken the floor plan and we've highlighted some areas to show what we could do. There's an expanded lobby with a security desk. There are recycling rooms. There are 2 laundry rooms, one in each building. There's new tenant association offices, a resident watch. So these are all just some ideas of things that could be done with spaces that are not being used to their full extent within the building. And so we will be looking, we will be going to each building to identify spaces like that, and then working with residents to come up with the right use for them. Next slide, please. An important component of the design and the construction plan that we put together is going to be focusing on accessibility and making these properties senior friendly. So we have a lot of senior properties in the group, but we also have seniors and we have people with physical disabilities in the multifamily buildings. And so we are looking to do things like expand lobbies, put in new entrances that allow people with wheelchairs, with walkers, or with other disabilities to be able to easily come in and out of each building, to be able to utilize ramps that are ADA accessible, to make any outdoor spaces usable by everyone. And these sorts of components we integrate into every project, but again, we'll be working with the population at each building to find out what your needs are. Next slide. Security, I think, is top of mind for everyone and is a major component of our renovation plan. We have a dedicated professional security team who is also here with us tonight to answer any questions that you may have. They work along with contract security guards and equipment like cameras, key fobs. At each property, we put together a plan that makes sense for that property. Some properties are set back from the street, will need gates, will need specific lighting. Others are in different locations and need a slightly different plan. So we're going to be working really closely with the local police department and our security team and your resident leadership to come up with the right security plan for each building. Next slide, please. Something that we want to incorporate into all of our construction scope of work is a sustainability component. When we talk about sustainability, we're usually talking about energy efficiency. We're talking about making sure the buildings have some longevity, but they also have an important component that they contribute to the health and comfort of residents. So some of the things that we're going to be looking to incorporating, we're going to be looking at the feasibility of incorporating are things like electric heating and cooling in each of the buildings, new ventilation systems, new insulation, new light fixtures. These things add both to security, but also to your health and comfort because your apartments will be warmer in the winter and they will be cooler in the summer, which means they use less energy, but you are also more comfortable. And these materials also keep out things like moisture and mold and other environmental hazards to help keep your homes healthy. Next slide, please. Once we do get started, which will be very soon, and I'll walk through the timeline shortly. But once we get started, safety and your health is our number one priority. And so we've put together, in light of COVID-19 and other illnesses that we've all been struggling with recently, and also in light of safety concerns and security concerns, we put together a protocol. Firstly, anyone from our team who is on site will have a badge to identify themselves. So you do not have to guess if they are there on behalf of our team or not. Their badge will have the Harlem PACT logo, which you can see on my screen, or is also on the front page of the presentation. It'll also have the NYCHA logo. It will have a picture and the name of the individual, along with the company that they're from, and it'll very clearly say that they're a PACT partner. Anytime we're doing inspections or we're doing construction, we have security and supervisors on staff on site. We're going to do the best that we can over the next 12 to 18 months to bother you as little as possible. This is a difficult process. We're going to need to do a lot of inspections. We're going to need to do obviously construction at some point in your apartment. We're going to do our best to limit the number of times and the number of people we have in your apartment at once. And then of course, we're going to do our best to keep our spaces clean and disinfect them regularly. For anyone who is not comfortable coming to meetings or meeting with people in person, both for safety reasons or health reasons or for convenience, we have a website, which Jim mentioned at the start, Harlem, PACT, PACT.com. We will put all information there and keep it updated. Any materials for meetings, any information about scheduling coming up will be on the website. There'll also be a phone number and an email address so that you can communicate with us via email or phone. Any meeting that we have, we will offer a hybrid option online and in person, and you'll also receive the materials in hard copy the way that you did today. And you, of course, either can get them from our website or you can ask for them in your management office. Next slide, please. Great. So to go over the resident engagement strategy, I'm going to let Katie from L&M take over now.
Hi, everyone. It's good to meet you all. My name is Katie Archer. I've been leading community outreach in housing developments in Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx for the past 7 years. Yasmin Cornelius, who heads up the community affairs team at L&M, and I will work together as a dedicated team who will engage with community members throughout the RAD conversion and the construction process. So we're here tonight to give you an overview of our community engagement plan. Next slide. So L&M's Community Affairs Division, we are here to ensure that residents and community stakeholders are informed and empowered as partners through this process, through the whole preservation process. So we'll be actively communicating with you all every step of the way. We have 40 years, as a team, we have 40 years of combined experience in government operations, advocacy, and community organizing. And we've provided resident and community engagement for RAD conversions in 12 sites totaling 8,000 plus apartments. Next slide. So our resident engagement plan will include obviously extensive communication efforts led by our community affairs team, both Yasmin and I. It will be a collaborative partnership with the resident associations. We've all recently met with the resident association boards and we'll be meeting with them regularly. Obviously, we'll be engaging with all stakeholders. That means you as residents. We will pledge to continuously engage and notify residents of any updates, any plans, any meetings, and any disruptions that may occur during this whole process. So we'll have monthly meetings set at each location to give residents opportunities to attend and discuss any specifics regarding specific issues. And we will be communicating through various mediums. Obviously, we're doing virtual meetings now. We'll be doing in-person meetings. We have the project website that Melissa mentioned. It's harlempact.com. That's PACT. We'll be papering the buildings just as NYCHA has been doing door drops and putting notifications throughout the lobbies. As I mentioned, virtual meetings, and then also robocalls and text messages to both contact you and remind you about upcoming meetings. Obviously, as Melissa mentioned, we will pledge to follow any COVID protocols in order to have safe meetings and engage with the community. Next slide. So engagement areas, a little bit of everything. We will be actively engaging residents in decision-making on various designs and programming. So we will hold in-person meetings for resident input along the way. We'll also be doing some surveying in the future. In the past, I believe we've done site visits to other CNC managed RAD properties. That's something that we can continue to do if there's interest from the residents. Obviously, we are here to communicate with you thoroughly and to listen to you. This can be a complicated and sometimes confusing process. So we are here to just be available, and we're here to understand and address any needs or questions or concerns that you may have. Obviously, we'll continue to explain the Section 8 conversion process and the RAD conversion process. We'll be discussing leasing, property management when we start to move CNC in, and obviously security, because we know that that is the utmost concern for a lot of you, as we've already started to engage a lot of the residents and your neighbors. Obviously, we're going to have to convey a lot of information about the construction process. So both Yasmin and I will be very actively engaging with the development team, the construction team, the security team, and the property management team to convey accurate and up-to-date information to you all. And there will be a lot of planning for any necessary accommodations. Obviously, we will be doing some work in your apartments, so we will do everything we can to minimize the intrusion in your lives as we move forward. Obviously, there will be some opportunities that were already mentioned for residents and community members to further engage with us and take advantage of some opportunities in terms of workforce development and training. Obviously, that means jobs, other training opportunities, and community investment. So other social service programming. We'll also invest in community building projects, as was mentioned. So family days, arts programs, holiday activities. So we will definitely invest in community building throughout this process as well. And then obviously social services, really addressing the needs of the residents. We want to make sure that we are actively engaging with you all to find out your wants and needs to best serve you. So we will continue to do that in the future. Next slide. As I mentioned, we have our dedicated community affairs team. We're going to be working in partnership with the Resident Association. We've already started those discussions. We will be very active. There's going to be a lot of meetings happening. So we're going to be throwing a lot of information at you. And again, the Harlem PACT website will also be an additional resource to get more up-to-date information. You can also go to that website to find our hotline number. I don't know the number offhand, but it's something that you can check in, so you can leave messages and someone will get back to you within a day or two. We obviously want to support existing programs. Again, security we know is very important to you all. So we want to support the ongoing resident patrol and community building activities in support of in continuing with the TPA funds. So I think I'm going to kick it over to my colleague, Doreen Isley, and she's going to talk a little more. She's from CNC, and she's going to talk a little more about the property management side.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Doreen Isley. I'm one of the regional managers for CNC Apartment Management, and it will be my responsibility to supervise the day-to-day operation of all of your sites. So I look forward to meeting you and to working with you. And this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful experience by the time we get to the end. Now, as some of my coworkers have already told you, we are going to have a full-time social service coordinator on site. And if it's one thing that we've learned from past experience, that this is very, very beneficial to our residents throughout the construction, because we want to support you. We will be responsible for the coordination and the management of the social service providers and make sure that we customize the service programs to your needs. In addition to that, when it comes time for you to relocate, we're going to be right there by your side to provide resources, including storage bins, packing assistance for the elderly and disabled residents. And you know what? They're not the only ones that need that assistance. I think everybody could use some of that help. But we're also going to make sure that we have additional accommodations when we are doing work in your apartment that may not require you to move out. We will make sure that you have a comfortable day suite with a restroom available at all times for our residents during the construction period. In addition to that, there are times when residents do need, for health reasons or mobility concerns, they do need to relocate. So we're going to be right there to help you do that as well. Next slide. The management strategy is not overly complicated. It's going to be customized to meet your needs. Your scattered sites, we recognize that, but each and every one of you need that detailed daily attention provided to you. And it's going to be our job to meet with you and to make sure that we can accommodate you in ways that you think best suit your needs. We will start off with the 2 central locations, one at UPACA 5 and one at Taft Rehab. But in addition to that, we will have an on-site presence for each and every one of your sites. We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to meet our residents in person, and we don't want you to travel too far in order to have to deal with us or to communicate with us. So we look forward to helping you get through this process. It's going to be a wonderful trip to get through it. And we look forward to meeting you and getting started. We're very anxious. See you soon. Next slide.
Thank you, Doreen. So I'll take you all through the next steps, what you can expect over the next couple of months. Next slide, please. There are 2 major efforts that will start in the next couple of months that you should be aware of. The first is the resident meetings that Katie described. We're putting together a schedule that will have meetings about every month at each property with specific subjects. At these meetings, like we've said, you'll have virtual and in-person options for attendance. But at these meetings, we're going to be presenting to you our plans to you, getting feedback from you, and asking you for some input. We're also going to be explaining some of the process along the way, and these meetings will be an opportunity for you to ask us any questions that you might have, and to discuss important topics specific to your property. Once we have that schedule, it will be shared broadly to everyone. We will post it on the website. No one will miss out on that schedule. Next slide, please. The second big effort is inspections. So we've mentioned a few times that there will be people on site very shortly. They will be there to do a few different things. First of all, the construction and design team, as early as next week, you may see them on site with their badges, just getting to know the properties, right? They're going to be measuring things. They're going to be confirming the existing conditions, and they may need to get into an apartment or two in order to understand what the big issues are at each property so that we can put it into our construction plan. That will start as early as next week and will really go for the entirety of the 12 to 18 months leading up to construction. In the next couple of months, we're also expecting our environmental hazard specialists to start inspections of every single apartment for lead, mold, and asbestos. A small subset of you may have already had this testing done in your apartment, but essentially, Every single apartment and every service in every apartment is going to need to be tested. We're going to do our best to inconvenience you as little as possible, try to get this, the inspection done in a day for you. All 3 inspections done within a day. You will be notified well in advance before we come to your apartment. No one is going to come knock on your door and say, we need to get into your apartment today. Without you having known well in advance, both in writing and over the phone. Towards the end of the year, towards the end of 2023, we will be starting what is called HQS inspections. HQS stands for Housing Quality Standards. These are requirements for HQS is required for the Section 8 program. And so in order to convert to Section 8, HUD requires that each apartment pass an HQS inspection. HQS checks for safety and quality issues in your apartment. So any mold, broken fixtures, any basic issues in your apartment have to be addressed. So we will need to get into your apartment to fix those problems, to correct them, so that when it's time for the inspection, when the city inspector shows up, it will pass the inspection. We will also be there with the city inspector to make sure that any issues that do come up, anything that was missed, anything that happened between the time that we came in to fix everything in your apartment and the inspection gets addressed, to make sure that you pass the inspection. Could you go back to the last slide, please? Go back a couple slides. So lastly, right before we start construction, as we're gearing up to start construction, someone from the construction team will meet with you in your apartment to go over any issues specific to your apartment. We're going to put together a construction plan to renovate each apartment, but there will be some specific issues that you'll need to cover with the construction professional. They will meet with you, let you know what's going to happen, and that'll be your opportunity to let them know about any special circumstances in your apartment and point that out to them so that they can make the appropriate accommodations. Again, an inspection will not happen without you being notified well in advance. All right, next slide, please. To give everybody an idea of this project timeline, I keep referencing, this 12 to 18 month timeline. We are now in what we call pre-development, which is leading up to construction. This is where we're putting together our plan for construction and for conversion and management of each property. During this time, NYCHA is still your property manager. Nothing changes in terms of your relationship to NYCHA. If there are any issues in your apartment or issues related to your rent or your lease that need to be addressed now, please contact NYCHA. Please continue to contact NYCHA. If you have questions about the transition, if you have questions about the PACT program, NYCHA also has a PACT line, but feel free to reach out to us on anything related to PACT and the future plan. During this pre-development phase, we're going to be doing everything we just talked about: resident engagement, design, and inspections. The HQS inspections that I described earlier will start toward the end of the year. The fall of 2023, what we're aiming for is about 6 months before the conversion to start that. The conversion will likely happen in the winter, spring of 2024. It will not be a surprise. There will be a date that everyone will receive. For example, we will say May 1st, 2024 is the conversion date. If that's the conversion date, then on that day, CNC, the property manager shows up on that day with our staff, and we take over operations of the building and become your property manager. And at that point, you can come to CNC with any issues related to the buildings, your apartments, your lease, etc. Shortly after that conversion, we will start construction. We're expecting that to take between 2 to 3 years because we phase everything. Obviously, you all are living in these buildings. So we have to do things sort of one at a time. But construction will be happening at each building throughout the process. We will not stop at one or wait to finish one before we go to the next. Construction will start for everyone and will end around the same time for everyone in the spring of 2027. Next slide, please. So that concludes our presentation and our introduction. I will now let Yasmin take over so that we can, we're eager to hear your questions and hear what's important to you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Melissa. And hello, everybody. My name is Yasmin Cornelius. I'm with L&M Development Partners, and I run the community affairs team. You'll be seeing me a lot more as we move forward with these meetings. Next slide. So we're at now the question and answer period. I'm honored and proud, as said before, as the rest of this team to be working and to facilitate this time of the presentation. At this time, I'd like to first share the instructions, and then I'll ask our translation lines to then ask questions along their respective lines. But if you're on your computer, right now you're all muted, but we're going to open this up. If you want to ask a question and you're on your computer, you can, as you've done, I've seen some of you type the question in your chat box and click send. Or you can click to raise your virtual hand and we'll call upon you to speak. We'll ask you to unmute yourself and then you can ask your question. And if you're on your phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand and we'll call on you, usually by your last 4 digits of your number. And then we'll ask you to dial *6 to unmute yourself and speak. I hope that makes sense. And we'll again repeat this process throughout the whole time. And we've also recognized that we've had a few questions in the chat room. But at this time, I'm going to ask Geneva to take this over and request any questions on your behalf that you need to do. Michelle, is it?
Sorry, no questions on the Spanish or Mandarin lines.
Okay.
No questions on Russian or Cantonese either.
Okay. So what we'll do now, we have a few questions and from the chat. So we'll start off with the chat line.
Yes, we have a question from a resident who asks, my building is a smaller building. Will we get the amenities still? I do see that it states all buildings, but could you please clarify?
Melissa, would you like to clarify, confirm accordingly?
Sure. So each building will receive the things we spoke about in terms of renovations and in terms of approach. But each building is different. Some buildings have a lot of space that we can use for new amenities. Some buildings have less space. The smaller buildings, if you're referring to maybe one of the Taft buildings, while there isn't a lot of space, say on the first floor, every building has a basement. And so we're going to be looking to use some of the basement space for new amenities. But everything else related to construction, lobby renovations, intercoms, mailboxes, those sorts of things that can be applied to every property.
Thank you, Melissa. And I just want to remind everybody that even though we're having this meeting today, we'll be having more and more meetings to not only introduce each area that we're discussing, but also to repeat and reiterate what we've said today. Next question on the chat.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions from Debbie, who is representing her mom from Jackie Robinson.
Hi, Debbie.
She asks, her mother is bedbound and non-communicative with 24/7 home care. How will these renovations impact her day-to-day care?
Okay, we have a question regarding construction as well as development. I would ask Melissa and or Ellie.
So I think in terms of the scope of work, like I mentioned, we have we're going to work with each resident in terms of the construction. When we come into your apartment, that everyone's going to have some special situation in their apartment, and both physically and also in terms of your family members. And so you'll work closely with the social service coordinator and also with the construction team to make sure that you're accommodated. But we're also going to be looking to incorporate some of these accessibility components into apartments, both for seniors, but for people who have mobility issues, to make your apartments easier for you to use, right? Easier for you to navigate and to communicate with other people. Sorry, I think I cut you off, Holly, when you were starting to speak.
Ellie?
Yeah, no, sorry. I think Melissa, you covered it, and like Doreen mentioned earlier, we're going to have a great team on site, from management to the social workers, and you have the benefit of fortunately working with a team who we've run into all different kinds of circumstances, from dealing with residents who have medical challenges, or it might be as straightforward as someone isn't able to take off from work on a given day that we're trying to get access. So these are all things where we work closely with the residents and with the team on site, in order to enable us to do the work. I think bottom line, the thing that we always come back to is that we're coming into your homes. So that is, that runs everything that we do. Working with you to figure out the best time to do the work is the most important. I just want to quickly show, I happen to have, it's a little bit of a scary picture, but I have the ID that Melissa was referring to. So you can see, I'm sorry, it's getting a little bit of glare. That's actually not working very well at all.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
I try.
Do we have other questions from Debbie?
Yes, we do. Another question is, she's wondering if green construction materials will be used for the renovations.
Ellie, that's you again. And let me ask that you kind of introduce yourself, Ellie, this time when you speak.
Sure. Hi, my name is Ellie Himmelstein. I work for L&M Builders. I'm a senior project manager with the company. And I've been working on these type of deals, I would say, for the last 11 plus years. And I'm part of a construction team, which is very, very excited to start working on this very unique group of buildings. So part of, I think you have a combination, two-part answer, I guess, Debbie. One, NYCHA's guidelines, their design guidelines require what you're referring to as green materials, low VOCs, sustainably sourced materials. It runs a whole gamut. Everything that we use has to be submitted to our design architects as well as NYCHA's design team for approval. So those are NYCHA guidelines, which will make sure that we use green materials. In addition to that, you have a development team who has a proven track record and is dedicated to sustainability, reducing carbon, introducing as much sustainable, clean energy related products as possible. And this has been a driving mission for the whole design and development team.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for Debbie, from Debbie?
Yeah, Debbie was wondering, Also, if this is a similar situation to the HDFC project that was started over 20 years ago due to slum landlords.
Do you want me to answer that question from NYCHA?
We would love that.
So hi, Debbie, this is Jim Shelton from NYCHA. This is a different program than the city's HDFC program, pretty significantly different. The HDFC co-op program is a program from the 70s and 80s. It is, I guess, similarly meant to address really deteriorated conditions caused by landlords that did things like abandon buildings that they were operating. But that's a program that's supposed to facilitate renovations and cooperative ownership of usually smaller buildings. The PACT program will provide comprehensive renovations of the building and will improve, really seriously deteriorated conditions, but it is a rental program. So it's not a co-op ownership program. Everyone will remain a renter. And it's still, within NYCHA. So that HDFC program is really managed largely by HPD, and it's meant to be for co-op conversions. So this is actually different, but the one shared thing is that you'll get a lot of investment and rehabilitation in the property.
Okay. And is there any further questions from Debbie?
Debbie just had one other one. She wanted to make sure that notifications of future residents visits would be sent via email. Is that correct?
We haven't done that, but we can look to that if that's something that is of interest to this population. We generally have done robocalls, somewhat text messaging, as well as paper. But once you sign up with the website, then perhaps we'll use that feature as well to notify residents accordingly.
So Debbie, you can go to our website and send an email that we'll all receive, and we will keep your email address.
And we'll put the website again in the chat.
Yeah.
But expect that around the time, now that we know there's interest. That's fantastic, and thank you, Debbie. Are we finished with Debbie questions?
I think we are.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Do we have another question in the chat? Because I haven't seen any yet in the phone list.
We have a few that just came in. One is from Loretta, and she is asking, how will situations that have not been resulted under NYCHA, such as transferring to another development, be handled under PACT?
This would be helpful for me to try to answer.
I think so.
Okay, so by the way, Ms. So, who asked that question, is one of our resident leaders from the Jackie Robinson houses. So really appreciate Ms. So being here tonight and always really being a presence at all of our meetings. So this is an interesting question. How do transfers happen currently in NYCHA versus in PACT? So one of the changes that will definitely come through the PACT program is that a resident will not be able to transfer from a PACT building to a Section 9 NYCHA property. It's a different program. You would actually, in theory, have to get back on the Section 9 waiting list for you to get into one of those buildings, which actually has been closed in many cases. So you can transfer within your PACT building, within Robinson, to handle a reasonable accommodation, maybe like a right sizing situation. But I want to kind of put an asterisk next to this answer, because I should say that some of this is a little bit fluid. There has been some discussions that NYCHA has been having with HUD. There's some outstanding legal situations that are kind of getting resolved in the courts as we speak, that may potentially change how this operates by the time the PACT conversion happens at your development. So what I just described is kind of the status quo now, but I want to say that there may be opportunities to transfer potentially among other Section 8 or PACT sites, or to other buildings in general, depending on how some of this kind of unfolds over the next 12 to 15 months. So That's the best answer I can provide today, but we can keep updating you if any of that changes in the coming months.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jim. Next question from the chat.
Yeah. Yes, this is from Jen, and she's asking regarding Jackie Robinson Construction. She wants to know, for those of us who need larger apartments or need accommodations to current apartments, will this be happening after all apartments are renovated, or will this be done during the renovation process as apartments become available?
I think that's a question between NYCHA and the development team as far as
Yeah,
right sizing, correct?
yeah. So I think let me try to explain maybe at a higher level this question of what we call right sizing. So I think what's being described here is what we call right sizing, meaning you have a certain household composition, and HUD has particular rules about what size household is supposed to be kind of appropriately matched to what size apartment in terms of bedrooms. And sometimes there are mismatches. Sometimes an apartment's overcrowded technically, sometimes it's underoccupied technically. And the federal government requires NYCHA currently to make relocations to kind of appropriately or right size apartments. NYCHA does not really proactively do that as much as we should, though it is actively a federal requirement. The PACT partners will also be compelled by the federal government to adhere to those rules and to right size apartments as needed. We typically only do this when an appropriate match becomes an available option at that site, which really only happens by a voluntary vacancy, a move out. You know, there aren't that many vacancies, generally speaking, in a year at a given site, and it would have to line up appropriately with a given need of a different household at your development. So right sizing, you know, we see maybe a handful at most of moves in a given year, because it really is hard to kind of find that sweet spot. It's not something like, hey, it's the day of conversion, boom, 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 we're moving all these households across the development all at once. It really is a much slower process, and it really is meant to prioritize households that are the most in need. So often those that need to be right sized for medical reasons or are severely overcrowded. Now, I think the question about when this would take place in the process is really more of a conversation between NYCHA and the PACT partner, kind of based on how construction is unfolding and if there are temporary relocations needed. It has, I have to admit, unfolded a little bit differently on a case-by-case basis. So I would kind of ask that you bear with us as we figure that out as the process unfolds. But anyone that would be potentially eligible for a right sizing move would have really significant notice before any kind of change like that would be asked of you. Generally, I would say it would likely happen after construction, but I don't want to say it's 100% a guarantee, given how conditions unfold in certain ways. I don't know if the team has any other color to kind of add to that answer based on past experience or expectations for the future.
I think you're right. I think it's based upon, it's a discussion when the time is right in conjunction with our partner NYCHA in this case. So you're right with that. I just also wanted to remind everybody that, again, if you'd like to, we'd like to hear your voice. If you'd like to speak, you can press *9 to raise your hand if you're on the phone. And then, you know, we'll say, come on and unmute, and you hit *6 to speak. And if you're on the computer and you like to speak, you can click on your raise your virtual hand, and we'll call on you to hear your voice. That being said, are there any further questions in the chat box?
Yes, we have one more that recently came in. Okay. A resident is wondering, how will they know if they need to relocate during the construction process?
Okay, I think that's a Doreen question.
That's going to be determined by the renovation that's going to take place in the apartment. Each site may be a little different, so it's not a one answer fits all in this case. We will make that decision on a one-on-one basis and make the best decision for you at that time that will make you best comfortable.
Let me also emphasize, Doreen, on top of that, that there's always, I think I want to emphasize that when we say relocation, we mean temporary relocation. Through this program, you have a guaranteed right to return to the apartment that you had to temporarily relocate from. Reasons that relocations might have to happen are going to come up as inspections and construction planning proceeds. Largely, the goal of the program is to do all construction with you in place in your apartment. The only exceptions to this are really two things. If in the course of inspections or construction, the team determines that there is an environmental hazard that would be disturbed, exposing you to asbestos, to lead, to some kind of dangerous material, we cannot have you in the apartment in any condition that could really risk your health. Your health and safety is the priority of the program. So that would be one scenario where a temporary relocation might be necessary. The other is an optional temporary relocation. If you are a resident that has maybe you're suffering from asthma and some of the construction happening in your apartment is kicking up some dust and disturbing you and aggravating your asthma, and you say, I would really like to be temporarily relocated, maybe even for a few hours or just one day, to your the hospitality suite on site at your building. The team will furnish a unit. It'll have it'll have a couch, it'll have Wi-Fi, it'll have probably a TV, things like this. There'll be a place for you to temporarily go to, even on a short-term basis, if you're just saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable with what's happening here. So there's kind of those two different categories of temporary relocation, but the ball is really in your court to ask for that, unless we identify a really serious environmental hazard that compels us to ask you to move temporarily for your safety.
I think
we have a number of questions in the chat, but maybe Yasmin, if you want to get the caller who has their hand raised.
I sure can. 1 second. So I have the caller that's the GPAD 5 10.1 asking you to unmute your phone. And you can, hi.
That's you. You can talk now. They can see you.
Hello.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Oh, pretty good.
Time is right. How you feel?
I'm the TA president for 131 St. Nicholas Avenue. I have a few questions and a few problems and just would like to know how is it going to be settled? The main one is we have a daycare with 50-something kids down there. The youngest one is 5 months old, 6 months old now. And we go up to 5 years old. I just would like to, I hope we can get special security for there, because the guys that hang there, and I know they may not be hanging, and I'm hoping not, they go there and smoke their reefer and they blow it into the classroom where the children are playing. And I don't feel that that's right. That's a health thing there. The second thing is we don't really have anything there for them to play with or play in the yard. I had got some dirt and got some seeds because I wanted them to learn how to plant, and they were very happy. But the teacher that they had at that time, the director, she had said that, everybody don't need that. I thought it was very, thing for them, because some of the kids come to my house and they see me planting a sweet potato. Don't plant it, just put in water. And they were so happy to know that can grow in their house. So I felt that they should have that. I got Christmas songs, so they was able to sing the 2 classrooms. And I just want to also know, could we get a doorbell on our door? Like I had one put on mine, I bought one, because when we're seniors and we cannot hear.
No, hold on. I'm fixing it for you. Here.
Can we take a pause on some of the questions while we do that? Can we take a pause?
Oh, okay, doesn't matter.
So the first question was regarding security, and also regarding, the other question was regarding
The daycare.
how the daycare, right? How we will make sure they'll have resources. And then the third one was regarding, will we have doorbells and such, making sure they will. So I think the first question with security matters, that could go to, and he will introduce himself, CNC, our security director, Adam Kroom.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Kroom. I'm the Vice President of Security for CNC Apartment Management. I've been with the company for approximately 10 years. I'm a retired NYPD police lieutenant. And one of the special things and unique about CNC Apartment Management, I believe we're one of the only management company that has a full-time security team, a dedicated security department, which is made up of retired NYPD detectives and sergeants. And how we broke up our portfolio is that there is a regional security director, and at most of our sites, we have a dedicated security director that runs those sites. Like someone mentioned earlier, with the sites, every site in this portfolio is individual, and each and every one of them will have a dedicated security plan, but there will be a dedicated security supervisor that will be overseeing those properties. We have a great relationship with the NYPD and other law enforcement personnel. For your condition at your site, we would definitely address that. You know, we take that, you know, very seriously with people hanging out and congregating in certain areas. I think we mentioned before that we're going to install cameras. You know, we're going to put access control, which is going to be only for
the
residents.
guys that put our yard, they broke them up.
Yeah, I got it. We'll definitely address that if anybody vandalism.
They burnt it. They
Mhm.
burnt the hallway up. You can't put up a notice. They set it on fire. I have went to somebody that's high up with the guards and stuff, you know, police, and I am seeing more policemen now. But even though they came there and gave them summons, they did the finger with the police officer and told them they can do what they can do. You know, they don't care nothing about them because they
Right,
have
but
something to do. One of the boys that lived in my building, and this was like 2 weeks ago, because I was at the doctor, he had sat downstairs because he was born there. He grew up there. He said, "You're all not taking this building." He said at the window downstairs, the whole front is glass. And they shoot. People go into the mailbox, they shoot. They sit there and tell them they ain't gonna get their mail. They break into their mailboxes. So that day, this boy, the lady called him on her cell phone while he was in the hall. He went up there to bring her down, you know, because she was scared to come downstairs. And I was at the doctor. So then he ended up shooting at the boy, but he didn't shoot him. He shot him, the boy got away. And I just was so aggravated after that. I didn't know what to do. I felt like coming back and killing somebody if I could. But now I'm seeing more officers. The other day we had 2 officers from Brooklyn, and then we had a PSA 5 and then 28 precinct, because it's getting real bad. People don't want to come down and go to their mailbox. They got to go to the doctor. They're scared to come out. So PSA 5 and the 28 precinct, and the head person for security in all 5 boroughs. I spoke with him, the police officer, he's the chief. And they all tell me they're gonna try to help me because I came out the building going to a police meeting and they threw a brick and hit me in my head. I had to go get a CT scan. So it's not easy living in this building. And it's only one building with 95 apartments. But we do, one thing I can say is we do have some vacancies right now. So when you all are going to start, we may be able to, you know, put some of the seniors that have to go to dialysis and go to the, we may be able to get those apartments done quicker. Because some is just like 3 rooms, some is just a studio, some is 5 rooms, some is 4, some is 3. But that would help a lot if they can just say, because they don't want to go to somebody else's apartment. That's all they've been always trying to me about. I said, no, I'm going to talk with somebody and see if we can do that.
Okay, Ms. Wright. Ms. Wright, you're a little bit off of your voice. We really can't hear you, but we want to try to answer a couple of the other questions and we want to get to some of the other residents that have questions. Can you hear me now?
Understand, y'all can't understand me. They wanted to cut my vote short, so I couldn't talk, but I told them,
We can't really hear you. That's why it's really, you got really, your voice is a little muffled. Can you hear me now?
Oh, it's difficult.
Yeah. And you kind of, that's all right. We'll get back to you, but let me just try to answer the questions just because other people may want to hear those. The next one was about if we can do something about the daycare center as far as, I guess, is that part of the scope?
Right. So I can answer that. So a lot of these properties have daycare centers, they have community centers, they might have even some vacant spaces. These are all part of the property that we're responsible for, and they are part of the project overall. So what we usually do is we work with the provider who's operating the space to find out what the needs are in that particular facility. I can say what we've done in the past, where we had Murphy houses, which was completed a couple of years ago. We had a daycare provider that had a small private outdoor area playground for the kids, and we were able to renovate that for them. We went in and made sure that their facility was up to code and was modern for them. So certainly we're going to work with each one of the providers to make sure that the facility that they're operating has what they need.
Right, and I would say just to add to that, Ms. Wright, when we are working in various sites, we recognize the needs that are already there, the importance of what each provider gives to various communities that they're in. And with your, with your guidance and your direction, we also want to make sure that they are the best that they can be to continue to be a support system for the residents and the community at large. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. And now that we know that daycare is critical when we meet on our monthly basis, we'll definitely make sure that's a part of the discussion. Now, Melissa, I thought there was another question regarding doorbells of some sort, of how we will be, or intercoms or just doorbells to allow, will that be addressed as far as access? Because I guess some of them don't work.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly every property should have an intercom system. I know most probably don't work, but there will be new systems put in that will function, and that will have everyone's phone number in it. It will ring to your cell phone. But I think Ellie can confirm that also the doors that we put in have a chime.
Right, all the new apartment entry doors. So all the doors will be replaced with more secure, self-closing, hollow metal doors. They'll have a door chime on them, which hopefully will be better than what's there right now. And also, the project conforms with uniform federal accessibility standards, UFAS standards, which is similar to ADA requirements. So percentage of units will also get audio visual hearing aids, which will also, which is similar essentially to a doorbell. And I think that the development team in general has been very receptive, recognizing that what I think, Melissa, 65% or more of the residents are senior citizens. So, adapting our scope to serve the residents as best as possible. So it's something that we can certainly look further into.
And I just want to mention, someone in the chat asked if there will be any video intercoms, because some people ring everyone's bell until they're let in.
That's been brought up a few times, actually, as we've met with resident leadership, that they're concerned. They'd like to see who is ringing their doorbell, who's trying to get into the building before they answer. So that's something that we're definitely looking into. We've gotten some suggestions that they be, you be able to either have a video intercom or be able to see the lobby from your television. So we're looking at the right option for each of the buildings.
Okay, I'm gonna now turn over to the phone. I have a few raised hands here. Let me start off with the last 4 digits, 8519. Asking you to unmute yourself, and that's a star, your *6 will allow you to do that. 8519, last 4 digits.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm on the phone and the computer.
You gotta turn one down so we can
temporarily turn down the computer, please.
Okay, is that better?
That's much better.
Okay. Hi,
Good.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
My question is that, as my husband and myself, we have a 2-bedroom here in NYCHA, but we also have 2 small dogs. So what is the process for with the dogs? We have 2 small, really chatty dogs, and when people come in the house, they go crazy. They're Maltese, and they're very, very excitable. And so what do we do with our dogs? I mean, we probably have to relocate because they're not going to be calm.
When you mean people come in, you mean during the construction process?
Well, anybody, I'll have to lock them somewhere because they're going to be all over everybody.
How do you handle visitors right now with your dogs?
Well, I have a gate that I have a 2-bedroom. So I have a gate that one of the rooms is connected right next to the bathroom where I keep their food and their litter. I mean, they wee pad. So when they come, I have somebody come to the house to work or whatever. I'll put the gate horizontal from the bedroom that covers the bathroom, so it keeps them in that area.
Right. So I think Ellie could speak to this, but I would also say that we usually deal with every apartment again, case by case. When we get to your apartment, we can address that accordingly. We usually understand that pets are a part of your family. And we also understand that if it's something that you realize that you don't want your pets to be exposed to, then we'll work with you accordingly. Ellie, is there anything else that you would add to that?
No, I mean, they sound like they're cute dogs. So
I know, right?
Looking forward to meeting them. I'm sure we'll figure it out. It won't be a problem.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to take another one from the list. I have Mr. Vincent Dees. That's the name that I see. I'm going to ask you to unmute and please move forward with your question. Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, my name is Vincent.
Hi.
I'm the super here at the Taft Rehab locations.
Okay.
I was a super for like 25 years. And housing use different management companies like every 5 years. So we already had like 4 different management companies, but this is a different program. So my question is, what happens to the workers? I guess the question could be for the management company.
Yeah. Well, first of all, NYCHA is also on the call too.
Yeah. Also, before management takes over, I should say, hi, Vincent. Good to see you again. One of the, just to describe that situation, the Taft Rehabs have actually had private management, as Vincent described, for quite a long time, and through a series of different management companies. So currently, it's the employees all work for Kraus. And they will not have that contract, as you well know, at the time of conversion. So technically, the staff there is not NYCHA staff. So I can answer before passing it over to the team for what happens with NYCHA. So for NYCHA employees, the staff don't get laid off. If you're a direct employee of NYCHA, they don't lose their jobs. We do relocation plans. So NYCHA property management staff won't be working at these sites that are NYCHA managed, and the staff will get relocated to a NYCHA development that is closest to their home address. Now, in the instance of Kraus, I don't know specifically what their staff plan is, and it's something that we could talk about with them and Vincent, with your coworkers and team, to try to figure out kind of what the arrangement is. But I don't know if I think what might be useful is if the the PACT partner can kind of describe what the hiring process looks like and what the opportunities are if a staff member who's on site now were interested in potentially staying on site, applying for a job with the new team potentially.
Sure, I
Hi,
can,
Jim. I think I can jump in here.
We didn't, that's what I'm saying. We didn't come in with crowds. We came in like 25 years ago. And so every management company that
you will continue.
we rolled over into that management company.
Mm-hmm.
And you will more than have an opportunity to fill out an application with us, and we'll give you every opportunity to continue.
Okay.
One of the things we're going to need day one is staff. One of the things that we can appreciate is experienced staff. So you will have every opportunity to continue with us and go through the application process. Herminio, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, thank you for jumping in, Doreen. Vincent, I think subject matter expertise is critical. Continuity is also equally as important. We value, if there's one thing we do about our maintenance support team, we value them significantly. We provide them with adequate training. We develop them, we promote them. We find areas for them to excel. I think there's an opportunity here in your case to leverage your experience and offer you some opportunity to remain there and excel in a higher capacity. I think so. And Doreen and the team will leverage some of that as we continue in this initiative, and look forward to engaging and working with you during this transition.
Okay, you good, Vincent? Okay. All right, I'm gonna ask, is there a question, one more from the chat?
Yeah, we have a few questions that are pretty similar regarding the relocation. So maybe there can just be, can put these together here. One was, will the relocations be in the same building? And another was, what if you do not want to leave your place during what would be relocation time? And also, will belongings have to be moved if we don't have to relocate temporarily while having construction?
So I think, Doreen, that you've had the most recent experience with relocation. Maybe you could share that process and what you have witnessed and experienced through your time.
That was a fully loaded question. And I don't think that there's one answer that fits all of those scenarios. One of the things that is very important as we go through this process is to handle and manage each household separately and independently. So we will have to meet with you, assess your circumstances, identify the type of construction that you're going to have, and come up with a plan that best suits your needs. I can't give you one answer right now because everybody is just a little different, but I can assure you that it's our priority to work with each and every household to make this as easy as possible.
Thank you, Doreen. And I just want to reiterate to everyone that, again, this is the introduction meeting, and the questions that you have are on point. As a matter of fact, we expect to have some in-person meetings later on this month, towards the beginning of next month. But just understand that when we're asked all these questions about your specific needs as well as general concepts, as we get closer to that, we will have specific meetings to that point. So don't go by today saying, oh no, we have to move and get, start focusing on that. Let's please understand that we're going to be giving ample amount of time for explanation. And we'll also be planning accordance with you all to see what makes sense as well. I see that we have a few questions as well as a caller who asked some questions. So I'm going to yield to her to ask her questions. And is that all right with you, Matthias?
Yes, of course.
Letitia Tarver, please unmute your phone.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I just want to know about the heating system because I'm in Jackie Robinson and right now we are freezing over here in this apartment. We have no heat. So are y'all gonna have better heating systems?
I believe that's a question for our construction team.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you don't have heat now.
Yeah, you put
That's,
down the tickets in and they don't do nothing.
I'm sorry. So that's absolutely part of our scope. Every single building is going to potentially have different types of systems, which are going to be best suited to your particular property. But you know, working our way from the outside in, making sure that the building envelopes are tight, replacing roofs, working on the masonry, replacing windows, replacing the heating systems, making sure that you have adequate heat and hot water, addressing all the plumbing leaks. This is all part of the standard scope for each one of the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
But I do want to keep in mind that throughout this process of the engagement, like next year, we'll probably go through another winter where we'll still be engaging you, but we will not be owning the property as such. So the conditions of your site, at your home, at your building will most likely not be under our authorization or our ordinance. So you may experience the same thing that you're experiencing right now, but we'll be working with you to see how we can support your efforts.
And I want to just tack on to that, so absolutely it remains NYCHA's responsibility to provide heat for you, although of course, you know, we are struggling with this mightily for various reasons, but you can of course go to the team as Yasmin described if you're interacting with them and you have a problem or an open ticket that NYCHA's not getting taken care of. You can give that to them and they can filter it to us. But I also encourage you to continue to come to NYCHA directly as well. Continue to file, to open up work orders and tickets the way you do currently. If they are not getting closed out or they're getting closed out incorrectly, please escalate that to us. I would actually encourage you to bring your tickets that are not being closed out properly or not being addressed directly to PACT. Please contact the PACT hotline, 212-306-4036, or email us at pact@nycha.nyc.gov. NYCHA is absolutely responsible to provide you things like heat and the general maintenance of your apartment in the lead up to this transition. Don't let us off the hook here. Keep giving us your tickets, keep opening up those tickets, and we will do the best we can to take care of it.
Thank
Letitia, you asked another question in regards to what if you do not want to leave? You put this in the chat regarding relocation, and I just wanted I wanted our team to respond to that. I know a lot of it is based upon, I think we talked about, I don't know if did we answer your question? Did you hear the answer?
I think you did. Yes, I think you
Okay.
did.
So you understand based upon the materials necessary, some of the places will have to be relocated. You understand that, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, but you're not forcing anybody to leave and you will have a place to come back to. It's just based upon requirements with quality of life and health matters, as well as mandatory work that needs to be done. Is that understood?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. All right, and thank you again for your question, I want to say. So I think we have another question in the room. And that is the last four digits of 4594. I'm going to ask you to unmute. 4594. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Yes. Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep.
First of all, Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope 2023 turns out to be a better year for all of us.
Yes, ma'am. Happy New Year to you.
My first question is, on the front page of your handout, where you have the telephone number 917-275-2963.
69.
Is that a general number to ask questions or for someone to get back to you?
Well, let me say that is my personal cell phone number that was put not the right, that should not have been on there, but we will have, there will be a new number
Miss O'Laughlin, we have a new number for you, and I can call you tomorrow and give it to you, but everybody else, it's also located on the PACT website, which is harlempact.com. The number is 646-527-7200. But Miss O'Laughlin, I can call you with that tomorrow.
All right, Katie. The reason why I was asking about the number, because Ms. Cornelia, I called you twice in December at a number that was given me. The first one, I couldn't find your number. I dialed the 212 number and I left a message. And then on the 917 number, I left a message and I never heard from you.
I have been on vacation, which
I mean, I know everybody is busy, so
no. I have been on vacation and I am still out. I'm dealing with my son going to college, if I must share that. And so I'm not here in the office. So if you have called,
not a problem. Not a problem.
My apologies to you, but you can call me anytime. I'll be back on Monday, and then I'll be happy to take your calls. I have not been in the office during that time period.
Right. What I also wanted to say was, and I had asked this before when it was just the PAC meetings, that when someone gives their name and their title or whatever, that it can be said slowly so that people can write down the name and the person's title and whatever, because sometimes it doesn't seem like it, maybe on your end, it comes across so fast that maybe people can't write anything down. The other one is in regard to the presentation when you're going over, the pages or whatever. For us that are on the telephone, sometimes, I think I only heard it mentioned once tonight where they said page 8, so and so and so, and then after that it was next page, next page. So if sometimes periodically, even if you do say next page, not every single page, if you could just say what the top of that page is, someone that comes into the meeting late or,
yes.
They want to make sure that they're at the right spot, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, ma'am. I totally understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
All right. And that is the last question I have on this list.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I saw one question. I'm really sorry. I just caught one question from much earlier that I think slipped through the cracks that I could give a quick answer to. It's definitely a NYCHA question. It was, do residents get Section 8? Do we get Section 8 through this program? And if I didn't explain that properly before, that's on me. So there's two types of Section 8. When you hear me say Section 8, there's project-based Section 8, that's money that really, it's assistance that goes to each individual apartment. And then there are individual Section 8 vouchers. That is a voucher that an individual person can have, and they can take that out anywhere to rent an apartment with, and use that money to rent an apartment, anywhere in a city that has an eligible Section 8 program. The PACT program is a project-based Section 8 program. So you will all become project-based Section 8 residents, but that money, that project-based Section 8 money, stays, quote unquote, with the project. It's attached to the apartment. If you move, that money stays there, and that's what makes sure that apartment, no matter who lives there, is permanently affordable forever. Now, there's one exception to this. If you do want to get a mobile Section 8 voucher that you can take out to rent an apartment at any eligible Section 8 program in the country, after 1 year of residence in the PACT program, you can apply for that mobile voucher that you're allowed to use out on the open market. So if you're looking to move, to live with family in a different part of the country that has a functioning eligible Section 8 program, and you're here for 1 year in your PACT apartment, you can apply for that mobile voucher and you can get approved for it and take that out on the market and find an apartment somewhere else. So just to quickly answer, you're all going to be Section 8, but there's those two different types of Section 8, and you'll be eligible for the mobile Section 8 after 1 year.
Thank you. I believe we have another question in regards on the list. Do we have one in the chat?
We do not have any other ones in the chat right now.
Wait,
we do have one about renovations, if the renovations do include windows.
Right.
Yes, they absolutely do. Yes, they do.
So the answer is renovations, Debbie. Renovations will include windows. And another question, when will construction begin? Thank you, Jim, for responding to that. Okay, I see no further questions. I have no questions on the translation lines, and I see no hands further raised. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. Please look out for our meetings in person that we'll have, and we get to really meet you and be held more accountable face to face. And just remember, this is only the beginning. Thank you again so much. And it's a pleasure to work with you, to serve you, and look forward to the next meeting.